All right. Welcome back to John Dudley Speaks, the podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. I'm your host, the one, the only, well, not only, John Dudley is it's a bit of a common name, but the one and only on this podcast, John Dudley. Thanks for joining in today. We got a good one here, don't we? We got Joker, Folie, Deux. Spoilers to follow, of course, but first let's get to a quick roundup of news of the week. John Mulaney signed on by Netflix to do a live weekly talk show. I think this will be great. He was great on the Sack Lunch Bunch. I love his work with SNL. I can't wait till he hosts in November. I think he'll add so much to the variety structure. And, his Salesforce AI roasting was showing that he's pretty much just going to pull no punches in his material. So this will be a winner. Next up, casting decisions out of the DCU. James Gunn has finally announced that Lanterns, which is coming in 2026. It's HBO True Detective style murder mystery that's coming. It'll star Aaron Pierre of Rebel Ridge. Excellent movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's on number 1 on Netflix right now. Aaron Pierre has been cast as Jon Stewart, and no, not the Carolina running back, and not the Daily Show host. This is Jon Stewart from the DC Comics run Green Lantern that I think was like 20 years ago when they introduced him. So very cool that we're going to finally get to see Jon Stewart in live action. And then, of course, legendary character actor Kyle Chandler has been cast as Hal Jordan, who's about 30 years Aaron Pierre's senior. I think these are amazing picks. I think we can expect that Hal's going to be the mentor to John, and John will be the mainline universe Lantern moving forward. And I just love how we're getting a different tone, something that's going to be different than what we've seen in animation, what we've seen in live action. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the best series of 2026 when it comes out. So keep our eyes on this one, because this one has a serious amount of talent. And I just love what James Gunn's doing with this new DCU. I think he's being extremely creative. But then last but not least, not much news on this one other than it's happening, but we're getting Princess Diaries 3. Anne Hathaway has made the announcement. I love those original two, especially the second one. I grew up with that one, watching with my sister, and we absolutely adored it. And I remember going back to it recently, and it holds up. It's just so much fun. It's so gleeful, and just, it has a really good heart to it. And I would love to see this kind of movie make a comeback. And Anne Hathaway making a sequel to one of her biggest hits, while she's already doing another sequel to one of her biggest hits with Devil Wears Prada. Like, just take my money. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna take the nostalgia bait. I think I'm getting to that age where they're like gonna start reintroducing things from my childhood, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'm in. It's fine. I wanted to see a continuation of this anyway, but that's all the news that I wanted to cover. Let's get into Joker 2. Like I said, spoilers are ahead. Now, Joker Folie Deux was announced a couple years ago. And the original was really such a smashing success, both at the Oscars and the box office. And those Oscars, well deserved. The score was amazing. Joaquin Phoenix, even though I do think Leo DiCaprio had a better performance that year, Joaquin Phoenix had a very much deserved Oscar win there. But the controversial aspect was that it was going to be a musical co-starring Lady Gaga, which I think was the condition on which Lady Gaga signed on to play Harley Quinn. And I've never disliked this idea, and I am a person that does not like musicals. You could literally just ask my family. I really don't like when just random live action movies will burst into song. But I didn't have that reaction to this announcement. I thought, okay, this could be interesting. But this rocked the boat for sure for a lot of the fandom around the first Joker film, and just a lot of people in general. Like, when it came to people that didn't like the first Joker, they were just like, I don't know, maybe this will be great, maybe it'll be a train wreck. So no one really knew what to expect. But before we get into the specifics, I just want to get into some positives and negatives. So first and foremost, positives. Lady Gaga, incredible. She is a terrific performer. I think one of the best of her generation when it comes to what she has brought to the musical landscape and how she's shifted the paradigm. Really has made her mark on the culture in such a glaringly obvious impact. And I don't think she gets much to do in this movie, which is unfortunate. I think she's only really in it for like half an hour out of the 2.5 hour runtime. She's vastly underused. They cut a lot of her footage, which I also didn't care for. But when she is in it, she steals the scenes, or at least some of the scenes, or most of the scenes. Some of them I don't think work at all, but that's not her fault. Once again, and I think they should have leveraged the musical component a lot more, because she was able to just work on her voice to be able to scale it back and kind of make it sound more amateurish than she's used to sounding. So I think that's dedication on her part. Shows once again how committed of a performer that she is. But then, moving forward, more positives. The cinematography was so rich and dense, full of character and life. You really felt like it was this dingy, ugly prison that was, Rikers Island. It just really felt like the world that was around it was like kind of informing how that prison looks. So it felt like the 80s. It felt like a very dirty New York City time period. Not saying that New York was like dirty back then, but they were trying to find a way to show you what the world looked like through Arthur's lens, and I think the cinematographer did a fantastic job. Lawrence Sher did the cinematography on this. Amazing job. And then also the score. The score, once again, was just a huge success. I think they tried to dial back the bombast a little bit and have it settle into a tone that had a little bit of kind of like a glee that was associated with the musical components of the film. But then there was just this like sense of dread, an overall sense of dread that was just lingering throughout the film, that I felt like the score really was able to capture what Todd could not capture from the directing side. Brendan Gleeson is great in this film as the prison guard. He adds a lot to every scene he's in. Puddles, that scene with Puddles, probably the best acted scene in the entire film. Very crucial for Arthur's arc, even though it's handled very poorly. That scene does a lot to move the needle. The Joker is me portion where Joaquin gets to sing and is doing the whole courthouse bit, I thought that was like the closest that the musical aspect of this movie really clicked and worked. I wish we got more of that because it was so much fun, and it was just, I think it fit the themes, and I could see what they were going for. And if they had just done that for the whole thing, it really would have worked a lot more. And then last but not least, the positives. The last one here I have is the ending. I think, it may be contrary to belief, maybe not. I think this ending is going to be talked about for decades. I really enjoyed the first part of the ending. Like there's something that happens, and I said spoilers, so I'll just go ahead and say it. But when Arthur's stabbed, that joke leading up to it, where he's stabbed and he bleeds out, it's fantastic. I think they ended it great. I think this is an ending that kind of is fitting for this character, even though the build up to get there is a little wonky. I think the ending works. But then what they do after that is what kills that ending. And I'll get into that in a second. But as for negatives, there's a huge lack of commitment from Phillips and Phoenix to actually dive into the musical components of this movie. And what I mean by that is this should have been 100% a musical. I really think that they could have gotten their meta message across by doing just a full-blooded musical about a trial and about a prison sentence. That it would have been dynamic. It would have been fun to watch, but it also could have made those points that they're trying to make in this anti-filmic sense, where they're like clearly purposefully trying to make a bad movie. I just think that it's kind of disrespectful to your overall audience that wanted to see a good film, when you're just kind of, dabbling in little elements of musical theater that don't really work as like an overarching idea. It just turns out to be vignettes. So it's kind of, you end up asking yourself, like, why am I here? Why do I care about this? And then same with the meta narrative. Like, this is an extremely metatextual script that is like interrogating itself and its own existence, and it's interrogating the first film and saying, was that okay? Were we like, should we have been allowed to do that? And should we put ourselves on trial for allowing this kind of gross manipulation and misunderstanding of the themes of the first film? Like, should we be basically held accountable for that happening? There's a good idea in there. There's a genius level of like mastery that needs to be on display and able to execute that idea. And that takes like self-editing. That takes, being able to scale the ego back and recognize when you've gone too far. And I do not think that Phillips and Phoenix and Scott Silver were aware of how far that they had gone in this. So it makes the meta narrative like not enjoyable or like interesting. It just kind of makes it annoying, because it's like you think it's pretty clear what they're doing by the middle of the film, and I'll get into this when we do the whole act breakdown. But it's pretty clear that they are trying to make a movie that is like hey, this is a rebuke of the people that liked this movie for maybe like the wrong reasons, like the 4chan incel guys, and I don't think that's the full audience of this movie. This is just people like me, people like, my family that, we went to see the first Joker movie in 2019. We didn't, I didn't go leaving that theater thinking, oh, women suck and the society hates me. And, like, I didn't think that kind of stuff. I was more like, oh, well, it kind of presents surface level ideas about class warfare, but doesn't really do anything with them. And that's kind of what this movie does as well. It presents these surface level ideas, but it doesn't have any inclination on like actually following them through and answering these questions. And it kind of makes us answer them for the filmmakers, which, I don't know, I think is just a waste of time. I also found Joaquin Phoenix in this film. I thought he overacted the crap out of this movie. And it just kind of, to me, dampened a bit of the goodwill from his first movie's performance. Because that first movie, he truly gives such a breathtaking performance that is like, when he does the dance in the bathroom after he like murders those guys. I really I was moved by his performance in that scene specifically, and they try to do that kind of stuff again, and he tries to overdo like the laughing and the just like the Joker persona, and then he does this whole foghorn leghorn, like, I don't even know what he was trying, like a Southern lawyer, like My Cousin Vinny's Southern lawyer thing with the Joker. And I really did not like his performance. That might be like a hot take. I know a lot of people praised him in this movie, but I just felt like he was very annoying while on screen. And because I felt like he was just overdoing it. And that goes for Todd Phillips' direction as well. There's a lot of flexing of technical skill in this movie, but I don't think that he's able to like harness his like ability to symbolize things all that well. So it comes across as very heavy-handed, and it kind of reminds me of like how he did War Dogs, like handling themes. Like I said, like it turns out to be very surface level and thin. So like you're not able to kind of like feel his perspective on it all that much. It's more like he's presenting an idea to you, and he's not willing to do the work to actually make that idea interesting. There's times where that happens, where like he's almost there. There's like specific scenes where he is like like so close to actually showing you what the core of this movie is, but there's like it's packed with all of this fluff and this kind of self-congratulatory type of and you're just like I said, fluff. It's just self-aggrandizing fluff that is just causing this movie to stall at every point in time, and that also leads into my thoughts on the editing, the pacing. It's ghastly. This is a like, and again, this is purposefully done, but still, there's a way to do this kind of movie that is like an anti-film where you could still enjoy what they're doing. And I could not enjoy this film because the soul was sucked out of it. So the editing is just glacially moving at like this really like excruciating pace that is so dull, and it makes it like it turns it into a viewing experience that is painful. It's long. I went to see this on a Tuesday night, and it was, the theater was not packed. It was like 4 people there. And I visibly saw people in the audience that were just like yawning. I was yawning. It was just, we were bored. And that I think that really comes down to like the editing of it. It does not, it does not like account for how you can make this kind of movie interesting. So, and then getting into the ending as well, huge negative for me. The Heath Ledger reference was really distasteful. I don't think we needed that. I don't think we needed the whole campy, like cutting, scars into his face. Like Christopher Nolan barred it from the first one, and he's now at Universal, so they couldn't bar it again. So I don't know. It just felt like a little bit disrespectful. Not even a little. It just felt disrespectful. And that being like the final thing that we hear in this duology, left a bad taste in my mouth. I really would have liked it. They just kept that out, and that ending would have been completely fine. But yeah, speaking of all of that, and getting into the specifics of things, let's dive in further into this movie. I want to start with the intro scene, the cartoon that kicks off the movie. I think it's clever that we get a little quick catch up of what happened in the first movie. I mean, it has been 5 years. I think it was a really creative way to show the battle for control between Arthur and the Joker. Seeing this shadow that also represents the movement that Joker inspired, but it also foreshadows a lot about where Todd and Joaquin want to go with this arc. Would it have been interesting if we got like a full movie of this or like a short film of this? I think so. I actually really liked that they kicked it off this way. That was really interesting. But then that leads us into Act 1. All the prison stuff. The cinematography and the tone, it's immersive the moment that you step foot in this world. The atmosphere is absolutely perfect. Everything like feels like wet and gross, and like it just, again, like I said, it was tactile. It really feels like it's a very tangible world that we're getting plunged into, and I like that it felt familiar to me. It felt like, oh, like this is that same ugly world from the Joker 2019 film. It's kind of good to be back. But then we get into a really clunky setup where, Catherine Keener shows up as Arthur's lawyer. I did not like the DID angle that they used as the expository setup of this movie. So, and because the way they do it is through this interview, and not the interview later in the film, but the one where he basically has to, say on record what he remembers from that night when he killed Murray Franklin. I think that was just really a clumsy way of setting up what the core conflict of the movie was going to be. The core conflict is revolving around him getting out of this death row, basically like being killed on death row. And I just don't think that they like were able to communicate that to the audience all that well, that that's what the stakes are here. Catherine Keener does her best, but they don't really give her a script that like shows like what's on the line basically, and then what her intentions are all that well. It's just kind of a lot of dialogue re-explaining the first movie, and that how they get out of this is if he explains that he has DID. So yeah, didn't like that. The B ward as well. You're telling me that like he's invited to a singing group, like he is a serial killer, right? Like he is a very dangerous man. I just feel like the facilitation of that into him meeting Harley, it did not work for me. Even Gaga's like weak introduction in the B ward, it's just the scene design is really flawed. The editing again was just like very like it just felt amateurish. And again, I think that is the point, but still, it's just not enjoyable to watch when Gaga walks out of the singing class with doing a finger gun to her head. I was just like, what are we doing here? Like I just felt like that was not a natural way to introduce this, especially with this being like such a grounded world. I felt like the grounded scenes would feel grounded and not stupid. And in this case, it just felt stupid. But I mean, there is a lot to enjoy in the fire scene when they're watching. I believe it's I forget what the movie was that they were watching. They were watching a movie with the whole group, and Joaquin, he like before that, he breaks into song in front of the prisoners. And I really got to say, I felt very uncomfortable watching him sing as he walked around the room. It was just not great. I don't think his performance is all that great on the singing side of things either. But also, I didn't believe that they like just locked eyes and fell in love after him going to one singing group meeting. Like it doesn't connect. It doesn't click. I don't think that they did enough work again, like to make this interesting. But then the If My Friends Could See Me Now, that musical scene where Gaga sets the fire, they kind of run off together. I wanted that to be the movie. Like when we watched the trailer of this, like I saw them do that very scene like in the promotion, and it's just like, why wasn't that what we were doing for this? Because that could have been really fun to watch them do this while also, in the background, interrogating whether or not Joker should be, lauded for the things that he's done or, condemned for the things that he's done. So it kind of, I felt bittersweet during that sequence where they kind of get up on the fence and all the reporters are there, and, the guards are trying to pull him down as like, as the like whole place is in chaos. But like, I just kind of felt a little mournful for like what the movie could have been, because that felt like that was like a shade of what we could have seen if the filmmakers were not like so up their own butts about this. And then Act Two, we got to see the aftermath, and this is where I think the movie like actually started to steer into an idea that was really like on the precipice of getting to the heart of like what Joaquin and Todd were trying to say. Basically like a you should not enjoy this kind of thing. Harley shows up in Joker's solitary cell, and there's a sex scene that follows that is extremely uncomfortable to watch. It's just like, it feels like you're like a voyeur. It feels like you're watching something you should not be seeing. It kind of felt a little cursed, and I don't think anything about it was romantic. I don't think it was meant to be romantic. I think it was meant to show the soullessness at the core of like Harley's journey in this movie, which we don't get to see nearly enough of for this to make sense. Because the POV is so like affixed onto Arthur. I really think this points out the central flaw of the movie is that we needed Harley to be a central character. We needed to see her, like, her ties to this whole Joker manifesto, and why it means so much to her. Because it's revealed to us later that she's not who she says she is. She's this rich kid that's a psych student that is just playing Arthur. Why are we not seeing that? Why are we being told that? I feel like a scene like this very uncomfortable sex scene, would actually work so much better if we got to see that POV from her side. But yeah, like moving forward to the interview that Steve Coogan gives to Joaquin. I think it's Patty who he plays. He interviews him on live television about the murders, about the trial. And then, yeah, they use this as a vehicle for Arthur to break into song and kind of sing to Harley. I think, again, this is like a moment where, like, they should have fired the lawyer earlier. And this should have been like Arthur as the Joker, setting up these meetings, these press tours, like all that. He should have been diving into the Joker persona as he's falling in love with Harley, not still being boring Arthur Fleck. And yeah, I just feel like they shoehorned the Joker portion into the trial, like just in a way that made it feel like it was too late for us to even enjoy his shtick. Like the lawyer firing, it should have happened like way earlier, because they just overused like the shaming of Arthur to exploit this idea that like, oh yeah, he's such a loser, like he hated his life, like he wasn't this flashy, funny, charming, charismatic guy like he is when he's the Joker. And that's why I felt like the trial was like a Joker 1 clip show. It was just so astonishingly boring. And, like everything that they would bring up just as character witnesses, it's just, I didn't need the relitigation of that. But like when Joker does show up, it does get a little bit more, like there's more of a forward progression and a direction to the movie. I think the best musical number of this whole thing is, the Joker, when he does the whole thing in the court case or the courthouse where he's like, beating the crap out of Harvey Dent and he kills the judge. And it was like, they didn't go as far with the violence that I think they could have. They could have gone for shock there. Where they didn't need to go for shock was the gang rape of of like Arthur at the prison from the guards. Like they don't show it, but it wasn't necessary. I felt like that was just like a really, like, again, like overusing the idea that like Arthur is like just like his life sucks. Like this guy's life sucks. And I did not think that was something that we needed in the movie. I feel like they could have beaten him a little bit and then maybe not just say just suggestive things about, like taking advantage of him. I don't think we needed that. And I think that was, and again, I think it was another thing where Phillips was like, let's really just make this more uncomfortable for the audience as much as we can. And that was one where I was like, I think you went too far. And that's where I think like test screenings really would have helped, because that was a scene where I was just like, I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to watch this. And I think, you could have shaved off 5 minutes of this like torture. But then, Act 3, the closing arguments, the Joker deciding that he doesn't want to be the Joker. Like, how did we get here? I don't feel like there was a natural path for him to understanding that he didn't want to be this thing that was, quote, thrust upon him, like Todd Phillips says. He became the Joker at the end of the first movie. Like, he was able to morph into that persona, and he, led that charge. And then this movie, he's just kind of like, I don't know if I want to be that. and then he decides he wants to be Arthur Fleck. I don't think that is a very retrograde type of progression as a character that I don't think works. And I don't think they naturally did it in a way that like makes any sense, except for like the Puddles scene where he realizes that he hurt Puddles and that he made him fear for his life. I, Puddles and him also felt invisible in the world. So I'm surprised that that they didn't go heavier on that angle throughout the whole movie to kind of get him to break this Joker persona. He should have started out as the Joker. Why did he start out as Arthur Fleck in the film? Does not make any sense. Harley also shows her true colors, that she doesn't want to be around him if he's not the Joker. Again, there is a natural way for this to show up. There's like pinpointed scenes throughout the movie where they could have built on her affinity for the Joker and shown us why that meant something to her. But we don't know enough about this character for this to even like be that emotional of like a thing. It just turns out to be like, oh, I guess she's leaving the courthouse because she likes the Joker and his power and that he has over the people. It's like, I don't know. There's nothing here that made me just gasp. There was nothing here that was like unpredictable. It just felt like completely bland and lacked soul. And then there's the car bomb. Again, technical brilliance of this movie, like that tracking shot from Todd the Wonder is absolutely stunning. And we also got to see the first real view of the Joker's impact on the outside culture. I would have liked to see more of the screen time of the people that were attacking the courthouse. I would like to see, why is it that they connect with Joker so much? That they're not even characters. They're just like little stand-ins for Todd to kind of get Joker to where he needs to be next, which is, Harley betraying him and being the real villain of the movie. Like, there's no clear set of goals for anybody. And this is the problem with Todd Phillips trying to do drama films, is that he cannot for the life of him go past that surface level and try to excavate meaning from these characters doing what they do. So when push comes to shove and they actually have to do something that like really will affect the plot and the development of their character, it just feels so out of place and clunky. And I think that's what this was here. I did think it was funny when Joker, like when Arthur says to her, like, stop singing, because I feel like that was us as the audience. So that was one of those moments where like, okay, the meta stuff here is kind of funny, but like, I just really wish that they had dove into that kind of stuff more. Because again, there is a way to make this movie without it sucking as an experience. Just seeing that the movement turned out to be a sham. Well, like, what was the movement? We didn't see the movement. We just hear about it from news reports, and we hear about it from people in the prison. Like, there's no exposure to his actual impact, so we don't know what it means to him either. So yeah, it's just a very odd way to end the third act, where he just goes to prison. And the conclusion, I really think the pieces of the inclusion are great. The you get what you effing deserve line with the joke is fantastic. I actually thought that was like an amazing lead up to, because it felt like an innocuous scene. It felt like really nothing. And then when he gets shivved, it's like, it's shocking. And that's the kind of shock that we needed in this movie. Everything almost connects at the end when you're watching him bleed out. You realize that like this is not the life that he wanted. There's like so much there that I think means something, but it's just told in this roundabout, just disparate way that it doesn't like connect you to Arthur's character. You don't really care that he dies. And then the icing on the cake is that we end it with the Heath Ledger reference of this inmate, giving himself the Glasgow smile. I don't understand why we need to go that far. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was disrespectful. I think it was really self-congratulatory. I think Todd and Joaquin really thought that they had a great idea here. And obviously, this is not like meant to connect to like that Joker, but even if it did, like, don't try to associate yourself with, first and foremost, the best performance of Joker ever. Secondly, one of the greatest Oscar-winning performances of all time, and then thirdly, a movie series whose world is completely different than yours. This is like Joker and Joker Folie are grounded, dingy, ugly representations of Gotham with very realistic, true to life characters, as much as they can be in this kind of universe. The Dark Knight trilogy has people that are acting, like they're in the real world. They're being realistic and serious, self-serious at times, but that world is so heightened that it basically allows for the ridiculousness of their actions to be considered fine. Like to be considered like, oh, this fits because it's a heightened cinematic world. Not any of it is really based in hyper realism. So like trying to connect this Joker to that Joker, which is like an agent of chaos in a heightened cinematic world, it doesn't make sense. It just thematically it doesn't make sense. From like a creative standpoint, it doesn't make sense. From a campiness point, it doesn't make sense. I did not like it. I think it left a bad taste in our mouths. I think maybe it was on purpose. And I just, at that point, why don't you just keep the movie? If you just hate that you're making this movie and you hate that you're like, that these people have like co-opted your message, a message of violence and a message of oppression, which is not what you intended. At one point do you just say maybe we don't do a movie because it will destroy the goodwill that the people that were fans of your first one had, and that's kind of how I felt at the end of this one. Is like I like that first Joker movie. It's like a 6.5 out of 10 for me. It's not great, but I think there's amazing elements to it, and this one sadly just absolutely decimates all of the things that I enjoyed about that first one, while presenting ideas that look like they could have been fun, teasing us with it, and then just immediately abandoning them every chance that it gets. So yeah, like while it aims to like cross-examine its own impact, both positive and negative, on modern culture, are admirable and even at times genius. Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, they make this such a ham-fisted, pompous anti-film of a follow-up to like such a worldwide phenomenon, and like that lacks coherence and focus and most importantly soul, so much so that it leads to like just an overall like dismal watching experience. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that this era of the Joker's over. We could just kind of quietly move on from it. We need a break from the Joker anyway, that's for sure. And I hope Matt Reeves of the Batman universe knows that. I think that's why he cut the Batman and Barry Keoghan Joker scene from the final cut of the Batman. But, who knows? We'll probably get another version of this character in 2 more years. And we got James Gunn doing The Brave and the Bold. We're going to have Barry Keoghan and another guy doing this. So, I mean, man, we're going to have more Joker after Joaquin Phoenix, that's for sure. So, like, this never used to be so complicated. But that's all I got. So, if you want to go see Joker 2... go see it for yourself. If you want to have a really bad experience, you might like it. You might enjoy it. All I know is that a lot of the people that I've spoken to, like that have seen it or have people that in their lives that have seen it, they did not enjoy it. I think this is also a movie that is designed to not be enjoyed. But yeah, if you want to go see it for yourself, you have a different appraisal of it. That is totally fair. I think this is one that's going to be talked about like 5 years from now. It's probably going to get like this cult classic status for being this anti-meta film. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But stay tuned for some upcoming videos. I got one in the can for Leon Bridges' latest record, which is amazing. So that's on the way. Got a video on the Brat remix album from Charlie XCX coming soon, and that is nearly flawless, by the way. It's incredible. Not the video, the album. I'm sure my video will have some flaws, but I'll check back on the pod when I can. It is my plan right now to cover Wicked when it comes out, so look out for that next month. And I'm not done with the Joker yet, because I have a very special Elseworlds video that I'm working on. I'm keeping the concept under wraps until like December, but I'll have some analysis on why this one performed so poorly, and I'll have some analysis on the new Penguin show, which is like, as good as it gets when it comes to drama. I absolutely love that, so I have some things to say about that show on my Elseworlds video, which should be coming in December. But yeah, till the next time, stay safe, stay classy, stay whatever, do what you want. I don't care. But I'm John Dudley. This is John Dudley Speaks. Thanks for tuning in.